We're live. Returning from executive session at 7:52 p.m. No actions taken or decisions made in executive session. Are there any motions?
I'll move the passage of ordinance 309.
Motion on the floor to approve ordinance 309. Is there any questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Ordinance is approved on its final reading. Next is ordinance 318, an ordinance of the Common Council of Elkins, West Virginia, amending sections of City Code, Chapter 152, zoning regarding sign regulations in the Central Business District, the first of two readings. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Any questions or discussion?
Can we get an explanation as to what these amendments are and how they will affect the ordinance?
Sure. Apologize again for my laryngitis. As you know, last August you passed the zoning ordinance, and I think at the time we realized there would be things that would come up that would be adjusted in when it's actually in operation and you're applying it to real life situations. The planning commissions had two areas that recently came up with regard to signs in the Central Business District, just in that district, not affecting any of the other zoning districts. And they have, believe, at least 3 meetings it was discussed and reviewed to try to find a way to allow the implementation of some of these different ideas about signs without changing the ordinance. Frankly, we couldn't figure out a way to do that. So the way it works is if you look at the zoning ordinance that was passed last year, in the very beginning of it, it says that the Planning Commission can make recommendations to council about amendments to the zoning ordinance, and they have to make certain findings that it's not in any way in deference to, or excuse me, it is in keeping with your comprehensive plan. So if you will look at the first document with this is the resolution that the Planning Commission passed at their last meeting with regard to the recommendation they're making to council. And the ordinance basically tracks the same language that's in their resolution. If you will look at the ordinance, the only parts that are being changed or supplemented are the ones that are in that ordinance. Every other aspect of the zoning ordinance stays in place. And if you'll look at it, you'll see either strike-throughs or highlighted areas. Those are what indicates the changes that are being made. And we believe that with these changes, the two different projects that have come up will be able to go forward, and they'll be able to get a sign permit if council adopts this ordinance tonight and the second reading. Sorry, Andrew, who is on the Planning Commission, is not here. However, until recently, Nancy was, and if you've got anything to add, Nancy?
Well, I think, as our attorney mentioned, that we really looked at any other way that we could possibly do this, and we wanted to ensure that we were respecting, the First Amendment rights of, freedom of speech, which really has changed how we look at signs and what is allowed and what we cannot disallow. And as you will have noticed in the last couple of years, we've had some amazing murals done in the Central Business District, and we were aware of 2 specific cases where folks wanted to do more. And part of the comprehensive plan did mention the importance of downtown art, and actually I think it specifically mentioned murals. So in keeping with the spirit of the comprehensive plan, we decided that we needed to open up that one section to allow for larger signs and strike the wall sign aspect.
And just so you know, murals in our definition are considered wall signs. Mm-hmm. So that's where it came from. This was a mural, and we needed to find a way that I don't believe we could have by leaving it the way it was, because there was a limitation on the square footage. And when you looked at it, in reality, it wasn't going to work in many situations. So we decided not to make another category for just murals, keep it in the wall signs, and find a way to allow these folks that have some ideas and things that, as Nancy said, would be an asset to the community as far as artwork and whatever. So we think we were able to strike a balance the best we could. Hopefully, in reality, this will work going forward. Signs are a big deal all the time, and particularly with some recent Supreme Court cases about freedom of expression. And so there's actually a paragraph in your ordinance that says all the things that we do in here are intended to allow people to exercise their First Amendment rights. It's that important that it's actually in the ordinance. So that's where we are with this. These are the tweaks we've made to take care of two particular instances that have come up when people have made an application for a sign permit.
And so the ultimate effect is to eliminate the size limit on wall signs, which is basically the only constitutional way to allow murals, again, in the central business district. And the second change is to allow somewhat larger projecting and other type of signs that are above 40 feet above grade. So on some of the taller buildings, obviously, it doesn't make sense to have quite the same size of sign and restriction 40 or 50 feet up that it does right at street level. So those are the two effects of this ordinance.
You know, the type of mounted sign that many buildings in the past had, for instance, a movie theater or a hotel or, you know, a retail business. You don't see them as much now as you did. They were very common, but we realized that we couldn't really do what we wanted to do and what would make sense. And so hopefully, as Sutton said, we made some adjustments there too.
Are there any other questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance is approved on the first of two readings. Resolution 1678, creating a new position in the sanitation department of sanitation driver, grapple truck operator, as previewed by the operations manager. Is there a motion?
Yes.
Motion on the floor to adopt Resolution 1678. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And Resolution 1679, authorizing conditions of lease and addendum and maintenance agreement between Hart Office Solutions and the City of Elkins for use in the utility billing department. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And Resolution 1680, this is the first general fund budget revision of fiscal year 2024. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Any questions or discussion? And if none, I'll call the roll. These types of budget revisions require a roll call vote. If there's no objection, I'll just call the roll in alphabetical order on this one. Sometimes we call the roll not in alphabetical order, but in random order for contentious issues so that the people whose names start with B or A don't always have to vote first and that kind of thing. But these are pretty straightforward, so if there are no objections, we'll do it in alphabetical order. Councilor Bros-Fraganera?
Yes.
Councilor Carroll is absent. Councilor Chenoweth?
Yes.
Councilor Hinchman?
Yes.
Councilor Kearns?
Yes.
Councilor Lowther?
Yes.
Councilor Parker's absent. Councilor Pliszka?
Yes.
Councilor Severino?
Yes.
And Councilor Thompson.
Yes.
And the motion carries. The budget revision is adopted. The final, next to last action item is a request for a floor plan extension, a non-intoxicating beer floor plan extension endorsement for El Gran Sabor. This is, is there a motion?
So moved.
This is something that council receives from time to time when an establishment licensed to sell alcohol wants to expand onto the street for a block party or related types of things. We get these during Forest Festival. In this case, this is for the Augusta block party. That'll be, I guess, July 29th. It should be on the attachment. As part of the Augusta Festival, El Gran Sabor will be blocking off part of Kearns Avenue. There's a diagram supplied by the establishment. And they'll have a fence, and the various ABC requirements about how they have to do this. They have to restrict access, they have to check IDs, they can't let people leave the fenced area with drinks, that kind of thing. And so you have their diagram and their letter explaining their plans. One thing they're required to turn in, so that ABC will consider this, is an endorsement letter from the city. And so what you're being asked to do is to authorize me to sign a letter stating that the city endorses their application, keeping in mind that they will have all sorts of rules imposed by the ABCA to follow as well. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Finally, item G, reschedule or cancel August 3rd council meeting. At this meeting, it turns out that both I and the mayor will be absent. We checked with all the admin officers. It didn't seem like there were any kind of calendar-based items that would have to be considered that meeting, as sometimes there are at other times a year. So I think the recommendation is that possibly that meeting just be canceled and you just hold one meeting in August. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion to cancel the August 3rd council meeting. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That concludes the business items. Are there any announcements?
I would just like to mention I'm sorry. A couple of us went to the event center sort of public comment thing, and it was really, really impressive. They are asking if anybody has any comments to their plan. They have, I think on their website, there might be a link to the YouTube video which illustrates the design and the purpose of this event center. But it was very, very impressive. It was a very positive meeting. They listened to a lot of people's concerns and suggestions and excitement. So take a look on the RCDA website, which is not RCDA, it's something else, but you can Google it and find
It's a
it.
bit short notice too, but I believe tomorrow is the deadline.
Yeah,
For
tomorrow's the
if you
deadline.
have public comment to email, so.
Yeah, tomorrow.
And do they still have it set up? I knew they were going to leave it up for a bit so you could actually go see it.
Through tomorrow, I
Through
believe.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
I think so as well.
Excuse me.
but the YouTube link will be there, so, and it's all the display that they have there, you can see on the YouTube link.
It was really exciting.
All right, any other announcements? All right, meeting stands adjourned.